Welcome to Converge. So we have a fantastic panel here to kick things off. From TikTok, you may be familiar, Jenna McNaney, and from WSC Sports, Amir Gelman. I'm going to do a quick audience participation here to start, but that'll be it, I promise, for the entire 25 minutes. Raise your hand if you stayed up last night to watch the entirety of the NBA Finals. Game 5, a lot of hands, fantastic. And raise your hand if you caught some highlights this morning, whether you watched it or not. A few of you as well, fantastic. So a good chance either you did that on TikTok or possibly those highlights were produced by WSC Sports. So we're going to get into that. I think, as everybody knows, the highlight is a way me personally and a lot of sports fans interact with sports, the primary interaction. So we're going to talk about what makes a good highlight, what makes it work, how they're changing the sports fan experience. And we're also going to talk about what gets people to watch besides highlights. So we got a lot of ground to cover, not that much time. So I'm going to turn it over for quick introductions here. Amir, for people who don't know WSC Sports, what do you do? What do you guys do?
WSC Sports, we are a tech company focused with AI, and what we do is basically we work with rights holders and we help them create highlights in real time, in scale, completely automatically. So basically, we get the stream of the game, a system identify every action of the game, and also able to create a highlight in real time. So everything you're seeing today, almost everything you're seeing today, I like to say around 80% or close to 90% of all the highlights you're seeing today is probably started from WSC system that was able to create it completely automatically.
Yeah, and you're making highlights of this conversation too, right? We'll get the best sound bites from you.
Just me. That's
yeah, exactly. I mean, you're a highlight generator. You're a walking human highlight generator. So that's good. And TikTok, people are probably familiar, but Jenna, you want to talk about your role there and how that's evolved over time?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna. I lead our sports content partnership vertical. So what that means is I oversee all sports media publishers on our platform. So teams, leagues, mascots, broadcasts, networks, et cetera, you name it. Our team oversees about 500 media publishers, and we work with them on large-scale partnerships, as well as making sure they understand how to succeed on the platform with content strategy.
Fantastic. And so I'm sure the question you get most often, maybe people have here, is what works on TikTok? What does a sports publisher have to provide to the TikTok audience?
Yeah, so, I mean, taking a step back, can I do an audience participation? I'm curious how many people are familiar with
Already
TikTok.
broken a promise for like 5 minutes.
So sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Mostly everyone. Awesome. So I think ultimately TikTok is a platform for entertainment, and our goal is really to inspire joy and bring creativity to people. So with sports, what we see that performs really well is the more unique side of content. So we're talking behind the scenes, personality-driven content. Yes, highlights obviously work. Highlights are super important. But they have to be tailored to the platform in a way that makes sense and feels authentic. So really we see, the Olympics is a great example. Obviously you could catch the games on broadcast, and then people came to TikTok for that next layer behind the scenes, more like holistic POV of all the athletes and their experience, in Tokyo or wherever. So I think a great example of that is Chloe Kim. Obviously, she won the gold medal for snowboarding, and yet her video of her asking for snacks during her one of her interviews went more viral than her gold medal. So it's obviously relatable content. Everyone loves snacks, and it's authentic, and our platform really rewards content that sort of speaks to that.
And what do you know about the people who are viewing that content? Are they fans of these athletes? Do they become fans of these sports and athletes? Or is it something where they just enjoy the personality side of it without maybe participating in watching the games, watching the highlights?
Well, yeah, that's what's so beautiful about TikTok is we have obviously a pretty insane amount of users. And of those users, we have a really huge appetite for sports. So one of my favorite stats is I think the hashtag football has 410 billion views on TikTok. So there is a huge appetite, but what we're trying to do is sort of shift the narrative and open the floodgates, honestly, for people to tap into these audiences, because it feels like there's huge opportunity to build people who maybe aren't familiar with Chloe Kim or other athletes, and they can create a connection with them that feels authentic and eventually convert to a fan.
Yeah, fantastic. And at WSC, what is the conversation you're having or leagues are having with you now? Because I know 5 years ago, 8 years ago, they had this tight grip on highlights, right? This tight grip of you got to pay for these if you're a social network that wants to use them, if you're a person that wants to post them. We're not going to give these away for free. And how is that still the case? Is that changing?
No, obviously it changed completely. I think 8 years ago, it was something they were trying to save close to their heart, and that's like was a premium content. And even in soccer, let's say if there was a goal, they wanted to see it, making sure no one will see it only by a paywall. Today is just different. They need to use their content to eventually bring those fans to become subscribers to different offerings they're having. The movement to D2C, we're seeing every major league broadcaster, anyone who has some content is creating his own D2C and his own OTT platform that he needs to get subscribers. He wants to push the message, and it all goes together. They need to actually tell as many stories they can. They need to localize stories. If there's, you can hear by my accent, I'm Israeli. There's one Israeli player playing in the NBA. There's 9 million people in Israel interested in hearing and seeing him, so they need to start like having skill. They need to tell more stories. Even there are like things that are happening off the court when he's getting dressed and having his walk to the court, and eventually also his highlights. His has to go together. So they're completely changed their narrative. There is more a bit of education in some markets that are still like trying to grasp this new world. We are feeling it, for example, in Latin America, they're like saving things to themselves yet for them to realize that if they gonna post a goal on social, it doesn't mean that it's gonna necessarily cannibalize their business. It actually might help them to push to other things. It's still evolving, but I would say, especially here in the US, we're past this already. They're thinking about what next and how they're using content to create new things, new monetization revenues. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah. And is that true with TikTok too? Is that true on social? You know, again, 8 years ago, this is a distraction, either both in person and at home. They're going to be on their phones instead of watching. Is that still how people see things? Or is TikTok a place where they can create fans and maybe generate some revenue too?
Yeah, I'd say the latter. We're kind of viewing TikTok as a way to enhance the experience and create more color around the story.
And this is a question for both of you, and maybe the answer will be the same, maybe the answer will be different. Are there certain sports or leagues that you feel like particularly benefit from this moment of highlight culture, of clip culture, of virality culture? Are there certain leagues that's easier for versus harder for?
Unrelated to WC, I think NFL is a good example. If if they're only going to be showed with highlights or there's helmets, it's hard to actually get to know their personality. Today, with this movement of social and stories being told across different platforms, you're just able to better sell the league, who they are, how they're behaving, and the whole scene around this.
On the TikTok side, we obviously run into this a lot because a lot of people don't have rights to post that certain content, which is why we kind of take the approach of how can we create sports adjacent content that still is intriguing and tells that story. One of my favorite sort of anecdotes is that I was at the NFL prior to TikTok and was deep in data and analytics, and we saw a huge uptick in every time a team won, their engagement would spike, and every time they lost, it would tank. I think TikTok is sort of flipping that on its head, and it's allowing teams and leagues who, even minor league teams like the Savannah Bananas, which we could potentially get into, but we're kind of like leveling the playing field for everyone. So even if you're not the NFL or if you're not the MLB or whatever, you can still succeed.
Yeah, so say a team, let's say the Brooklyn Nets, right, come to you and say, we want to become the favorite team of people on TikTok. What's your advice to them?
Oh gosh.
Some free consultation, yeah.
Win some games. So.
Yeah. I would say ultimately you have to be authentic. Like I said, the platform rewards authenticity and relatability. So you want to make sure that you're not reposting content. If you're posting highlights, you're doing it in a way that feels native to the platform, and you're engaging with the community. That's a huge thing. Commenting in the comment section, making sure that you are feeling like an approachable brand, if I would say that. And obviously learning by example. We have a lot of teams and leagues that already do amazingly, and you can learn a lot from them.
And how are fans empowered to reshare? I think a lot of us learned during that window 5 to 10 years ago that they don't want me kind of posting content or commenting on content. How do leagues, whether through highlights online or on TikTok, how do you get fans to feel like they are a creator, to feel like they are part of this community, and it's not just top down the way people watch sports for a very long time?
I think you have to meet them halfway, and that's what we always say when we're creating content to all my partners. I'll say, like, put yourself in the seat of the user. Is this something you would engage with? Because ultimately you are kind of your own audience. So I'd say, and also just making sure you're engaging in the comment section. TikTok, I feel like, is kind of a anomaly because people love the comment section, and they'll always be commenting first, or does MLB respond or whatever, and making sure that you're engaging with them. There's some posts where, I don't know if anyone's seen, where like every single publisher is commenting and it goes super viral. So those are always fun ones.
And do you work on making highlights shareable? Is that something leagues want?
Yeah, I think that's we're like in a moment of, I won't say friction, but moving. We talked what happened 8 years ago and 10 years ago, and now moving to a place that they're feeling much more comfortable in sharing content and using it. Now we're moving into a place that they just need to see how they keep control in some manner. We're moving like to this creator economy, and every platform is moving into providing access to creators, and now they need to find the right balance of how they can actually use it, because eventually the message and how they want the controls is important. They don't want to have like a creator eventually creating highlights of bloopers of a specific player and trashing a specific player, or the message is not aligned with how they want to be portrayed and how they want to use content. So they all the time are trying to find balance, actually making those partnerships with specific creators, creating programs around creators to be actually allow them to use content, but still sits with their guidelines, because they understand the importance of this, but also they are concerned about what might happen with the content eventually that can hurt them.
What is the biggest friction point for leagues to be empowering creators? For either of you, yeah?
I think that the biggest friction point from the lead or the rights holders is abuse of their rights. Mm-hmm. The way the rights are working, each one has his own can and can't do, and they need to keep it in kind of like in the right, form, in the right way for people to consume it in the way they want to use it. Going back to the why they're sharing this and why they're giving it is eventually to push their brand forward, and also eventually impact their own, monetization avenues, and use it as a way to get more fans and people to subscribe. If it's gonna move to trash the right holder, the league, the team, or in any way, that's gonna be their friction point. And also like making sure they're staying with the lane of what they're allowed or not allowed to do with their content. Yeah. So that's a concern. They're eventually trying to get it with guidelines for people to use it in the right way, to keep it in the right environment. And unfortunately, we know a lot of the viral things that are happening are coming as a negative type of content, and that's what they don't want it to. Like,
is that enforceable? Do you think you can get to a point where you can make this stuff freely available while preventing that from happening, or is that just a devil's bargain you're gonna have to choose?
I think it is. We're in a point that technology is important. We'll take like YouTube creators and rights holders can claim content. They can make sure that people are removing the content. So they need to create like an incentive for a creator to be able to work with them and not against them. If they're able to give access to specific creators, they're able to push the message that they want. Eventually, they're creating like an environment that is a win-win for everyone. Because they won't claim their content, they can rev share on those ads, they can help the creators. There's a lot of things that they can do to work with the creator versus, fighting them and claiming and trying to get their content like out of those platforms.
Yeah, I know. I was definitely surprised when I learned how much leagues, in particular, are working with creators. These very built-out creator programs that they have, kind of tracking creator interest, potential overlaps, locations. How much are they working with creators on TikTok? What are those vectors upon which maybe people don't even see that leagues are using creators to get to ultimately fans?
Yeah, I would say there's a huge uptick, especially this year, in our publishers partnering with creators, and there's a lot of people that have already done it really successfully. You might have heard of the MLB's creator class. They're currently vetting for their second one this season. The Washington Commanders just enlisted a girl named Katie who's going to be leading their creator efforts. And I think even like mascots on our platform, mascots are very beloved. Benny the Bull and Blue, who is the Colts mascot in particular, do amazingly. Blue actually did what we call Blue's Road Trip, and he went all around the U.S. ahead of the Pro Bowl and partnered with various creators, and we worked with him to make sure that they felt authentic, like you were talking about. It felt really engaging and natural, and that's what I think our audience really leans into. We did a study, and there was 2/3 of our users actually liked when creators partnered with publishers, and there was a brand favorability lift of 26% every time they did. So we see a huge value in it. Creators are the heart and soul of TikTok. And Blues Road Trip was a hashtag. It's a mascot, it's not like a huge entity, and he garnered over 70 million views on that mascot in just a few months.
Are there other opportunities you see like that to create new IP, to create new verticals or new series beyond what's already being broadcast that these teams maybe have control over?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's especially like on TikTok, not just because I work there, but I think that there's a huge, like I said, untapped audience, and you can really get creative and take risks. Obviously, our algorithm favors, people who want to experiment, and every piece of video is evaluated independently, so you don't need to have a ton of followers. So there's a lot of room for growth, improvement, experimenting, etc.
I think from a rights perspective, one of the places we looked into that we feel like it's a gold mine is actually archive and looking back in time, that a lot of the content is sitting in a shelf, an actual shelf, which is surprising. There's still buildings with tapes that they are not digitized, and there's a lot of great content then, and there's also a lot of personalities that wasn't able to utilize today's environment and how people are reacting. So those are one of the places we are going to and trying to focus on getting those tapes and being able to automate the content, creating like everything scalable. So, we can start creating like content as Allen Iverson's birthday today. So maybe like you are able to actually create highlights in real time just about for his birthday, and also get him involved in some manner just because he's an interesting persona that, if he was playing today, it's probably were rocking the social network. So this also, I think it's a big opportunity there.
I actually just want to emphasize that. That was like a huge strategy for us on TikTok, especially during the pandemic, was leaning into archive content, and we've seen that sort of like carry over. So absolutely.
Why do you think that was successful?
Well, I mean, people still wanted that, sort of content that made you feel like you were watching a live sport, and the mindset shifted to, how do we bring people to sports, to how do we bring sports to people? And that was kind of a huge opportunity for us. And when you're doing exactly what Amir is talking about, taking the content, tailoring it to TikTok, okay, it's someone's birthday, let's go back and tap all their highlights, or how do we make this relevant today? This was a huge win.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that's something I've noticed on social media is, and maybe it is because of the pandemic, it's not something I had put together, but even now, you'll see clips of Shaq in his prime going viral. You see clips of Barry Bonds or whoever going viral. Do you feel like the temporality of sports, is that a mindset shift for publishers of people do care about this stuff? Because it used to be, the game was important. Maybe the next day this stuff was valuable, and then maybe you'd see it on the 10th anniversary and that was it. But even 3 months later, 6 months later, do you think have you seen on TikTok this kind of content kind of have a longer shelf life virtually?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, when I first joined TikTok 2.5 years ago, we were specifically telling publishers to really not optimize around tentpoles, because we were like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Our algorithm will distribute this 3 months later, and it's not relevant anymore. We've actually seen that completely shift, especially into 2022. So we do tell people to optimize around tentpoles, and I do think if it's done well, the content will still be engaging and relevant, and ultimately you kind of have to trust our algorithm. If you're creating engaging content, the right audiences will see it at the right time.
Yeah, because that was something that was a process, right? Because I still see some clips that are from 2 weeks ago, and it is kind of confusing, but I do feel like there's more acceptance for that now among
Noted.
I think there was always acceptance for this, but we used to have one TV, and were a few channels, and you need to select like what you're gonna watch and what you're gonna have in those channels. And today, you just have endless possibility to interact with content in different ways. It's just on your screen, on your connected TV homepage. Then you move into your mobile, your desktop. There's like so many possibilities that you just need to find like engaging content all the time. People were always cared about it. They just needed to choose one thing. Today, they can have more than one.
Talking a little bit more about live, what is TikTok's live sports offering? Are people doing more live? Do you want to host more live sports content?
Yeah, absolutely. Live is a huge priority for us, and like I said, we've, we saw during COVID, we kind of brought live to people and live events to people and made them feel like they were in the front row and really giving them that unfiltered view, which all of our TikTok users so cherish and they so love. So it's all behind the scenes, personality driven. I'd say live is a huge priority, and even like shot on an iPhone. Just because it's low quality, just because it's low, not produced, doesn't mean it's low quality. So I think we're really focused on just being creative, and even if it's like a selfie video of an athlete going live after a match or something, that's the stuff that performs really well.
And it feels like a lot of times the lower budget stuff is even more popular, right? Like I feel more drawn into watching an athlete on his phone than a press conference tripod setup. Is that something you have to convince leagues, convince partners that someone like ESPN has 100 cameras at an event, but maybe they should also have an iPhone there because that stuff maybe is going to do better than the camera stuff?
Yeah, it does take some negotiating, especially on the league side. It kind of depends on the live. Like we did the TikTok tailgate with the NFL for Super Bowl, and that was kind of a mix. We had something that was very highly produced in terms of like a concert, and then we also had 12 creators that just shot their own video on their. I think you're laughing because you saw it. They just posted a selfie mode of them doing whatever was engaging and authentic to them. So Martha Stewart making a recipe and angry reactions, yelling at the camera, and then we just clipped them all together, and that stuff is like what people really love on TikTok. So it's kind of a balance, but yeah.
So should teams and leagues be hiring more 12-year-olds? Is that an untapped?
Not 12. I don't know about that, but I think they should be leaning into creators 100%.
Yeah. And WSC also, you guys have put a lot of emphasis into live, into those moments. It's not just next morning, right? It's mid-game too.
Mainly on the live, but yeah, a lot of the stuff people want to be first out there. They want to again use content to bring people to tune into the game, different platforms. So live is a big piece. We are. I don't know if you guys are searching on Google during the live game to see the scores. So now on one box, you can click on one box and getting like a stories experience that is actually being updated in real time as the game progresses, so you can catch up into the game, and then hopefully you're going to subscribe and tune in to watch the full game. So all of those things, a lot of the products, a lot of the features we're working on, the automation is focused on the live, which is a big piece. Obviously, big portion of highlights are pre-game and post-game, but live is also becoming a real need that we are catered and trying to help and creating products around this.
Yeah, fantastic. We got a couple minutes here, so I'm going to ask you first. What is the biggest thing that leagues or networks ask you for that you can't do right now?
Wow, you got me. We're working on a product we can't do right now, but it's related to what we've been talking about. It's about being able to automate everything off the field, which is the moments, the key scams, the mascots, and hopefully soon we are launching our automation for this as well, but maybe in a month or so. But that was a big thing that for like years we've been asked to, and we weren't able to do this, or wasn't focused because there was other stuff to do. And in the last year, our team decided to focus on this, and so.
And so when you're talking about that, you're talking about a computer being able to tell what's a funny moment from the crowd, right? I mean, that's a tough challenge.
So one of the things in our platform is that our system is able to rate automatically from 1 to 5 every play, right? If it was a missed free throw, it might be a 1, and if it's a game-winning buzzer beater shot, it will be a 5. And so the rating is a big portion, both for our users, for our editors to be able to filter and be able to look what's a 4-star play, 5-star play, but also for our machine to be able to compile those highlights in real time and look at this and filter themselves. So we're going to be able to do it also with moments, identify a big moment off the court, and that's going to be a big piece to editors, creators, to be able to actually use this content, filter this, because there's so many games happening in the same time. So.
Yeah, fantastic. We only have a minute here left, Jen. I'm going to give you the last word. We have a packed schedule today, so I'm going to try not to go too far over. For you, the biggest misconception about TikTok that you get, that you want to dispel once and for all, that you want no one to ask you about afterwards or come up and say, this is your chance?
I'd say that the misconception is that TikTok is a platform for dance and lip sync. because it is really so much more. And I think that's shifted from 2020. 2022, I think a lot of people understand there's educational content, there's creators, personalities, etc. I personally learn so much from TikTok. There's like deep communities you can get into, like Draco Talk, Plant Talk, Art Talk, Astrology Talk, you name it. So there's a lot to be discovered there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm not ashamed to admit I'm into metal wanding TikTok. That's actually highly recommended for anyone looking for to kill some time. No, seriously. Fantastic. So we'll wrap it up there. These folks will be around, so if you want to come up and ask a question, not those two questions, but any other question, I think they're happy to answer. Otherwise, Jenna and Amir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.